Hey y'all, it's Katie. Hope everyone's doing well. Today we are talking about The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh. This is the second book in the Wrath and the Dawn duology. Again, I have to give this book a 10 out of 10. It was so wonderfully written. The plot that took place was beautiful. The characters all had a lot of growth, and there was just so much that we got to see throughout this. Since this is the second book of the duology, there's not much I can say without spoiling, so I'll have a link to the first one below if you want to check out the synopsis part of the beginning of, and we're going to go ahead and get into spoilers. I loved The Wrath and the Dawn so much, I was like, there's no way the second book will be better, especially because the second books in duologies are like never better, but this one was so good. I loved getting to see Shahrazad and Khalid kind of grow, having to be apart, and like they still had a healthy relationship. Like whenever they were together, they were so good, and they both didn't worry about the other person. There's just so much trust between these two characters, and it is so nice to read in a world where trust is such a thing that does not happen in YA fiction a lot. When we started off, Khalid is at the palace but also sneaking out to help rebuild the city, and Shahrazad is in an enemy camp because Tariq is trying to start a war with Khalid. So I was very stressed. And then we finally got to meet Ursa, Shahrazad's sister, who I completely love. Ursa's love interest Rahim, who we got to see a little bit of in the first book, but not a whole lot, so we got to know him better. And we got to meet a lot more of their father, Jahandar. Jahandar is so problematic, and he is the kind of problematic that I find the hardest to read about and the hardest to pass judgment on. Because at the end of the day, he had good motives and he did love his kids. But that does not make it okay to do all of the things that he did. He murdered thousands of people because he wanted power and influence again. He almost murdered his daughter's love because he wanted that power and influence. And he didn't let anyone talk him out of things. Like, I understand that he wanted to be powerful and he didn't want to hurt his daughters, but that does not change the fact that he did, and he could have avoided that if he had not done these things, or if he had just talked to them about it at any point in time instead of assuming that he knew best. I loved the magic carpet. I love all the parallels. I don't know that much about Arabian Nights, so I know that this would probably be much more fun to read as a retelling if I did, but I don't. So I just see a few things and I'm like, oh, that's familiar, that's so cool, I love how she incorporated that. And the magic carpet's one of the things, the creepy cave is one of the things. I loved getting to see Musa Effendi again, and getting to meet Artan was one of my favorite parts. I love him as a character. He was so cool. I love him all throughout the book, and I loved hearing mention of him in the epilogue. Like, I thought he was a great character who added like a really cool dynamic to the story. Again, I'm really appreciative of the non-cliches. Like, Artan did not fall in love with her knowing that she's in love with someone else and like try to start a love triangle. He was just like, cool, like, you be happy. Despina running away to get married to the Rajput. I screamed. And then it turns out she's not the Caliph spy. She's the evil Sultan spy because she's his daughter. But then she's not evil. She had this whole plan with the Rajput in place so that they could save her. It was a whirlwind of emotion. I did really like these plot twists though, because betrayal, while it's always a really good plot device, it just makes me so upset because I hate it. I hate it so much, even though I think it is in good writing. And so for her to have betrayed them, but then betray the one that she betrayed them for, so she hadn't really betrayed them, was so good. So keeping him with character because Despina is so clever. I'm really happy that it wasn't like, oh, like, I got pregnant with Jalal's child and I'm evil. Like, I like the way that it worked out. And then Yasmin comes to the rescue and everyone's like, oh no, she's gonna betray us. But like, I don't know, I've just always gotten a good vibe from Yasmin. Like, yes, she was in love with Khalid, but like, I just always liked her. So, I mean, it didn't surprise me that much. It surprised Shahrazad. Like, I know like a lot of people were expecting Yasmin to like throw them under the bus and do whatever it took to like get her happiness, but like, she's a good person, which was exciting, and if her and Tariq did get together, like was suggested in the epilogue, I would ship that. The final battle was so impressive to read. I love whenever, like, lots of different forces come together to fight, like, in a war on one side, and that's kind of what we got here. All the random little mishmashes of soldiers came together to fight under Khalid and Tariq and the Sheikh's banners, and it was just so cool to read as they approached, and they just, like, scared the bejesus out of the Sultan, made him get out of town, like, let's make Yasmin the Sultan. I thought that was wonderful. Like, I loved that whole arc. I really enjoyed this book, because even though our main two love interests were not together for a lot of it, there was no worry, there was no stress, like, it didn't give me anxiety, like, oh no, they're not together, something bad's gonna happen. It was like, okay, like, I wish they were together right now, but, like, in the meantime, like, I'm glad they're both being productive. Like I said before, I just think they have, like, a really healthy dynamic going on between the two of them, and I think that makes it more fun to read about. Then we have Shahrazad getting shot by Tariq, who's trying to kill Khalid, and then we have Khalid actually getting stabbed by Jahandar, and then Jahandar has to take the injury and die himself, which, while I'm glad that both of these things ended up okay, it's just so frustrating because they didn't trust her when she said, like, no, like, listen, like, there's a reason he's not evil, like, trust me, and they didn't. They still tried to kill him, like, why can't you just listen to her? I really loved the way that the story went in this book, the background that it chose to give to the magic book, to why the curse was the way it was. I wish we would have gotten to learn a little bit more about Artan's, like, family and, like, why they got their curse, but I thought that it was really cool getting to meet his aunt and the whole story and, like, how they had to destroy the book. I just thought it was a really, really interesting. I love whenever, like, magic is called into question, we have to kind of figure out how it works, so I thought that was really great. I really love Khalid and Shahrazad's characters. Like, I think they're such great protagonists to read about. I love that they both care for each other so much that the second Khalid saw Artan's, like, burns, he knew, and he was just, like, full of rage, and Artan's just, like, joking around, and he's like, it was you that burned her, and he's like, oh shit, like, I should do some damage control now. Like, he notices because he cares, like, he just picks up on it. I love that he's so attentive to the things going on around him for Shahrazad's sake, for his own sake. Like, the way she says, you don't listen to wait to talk, like, you just listen to listen, and I love that in his character. I think it's so good in a relationship with Shahrazad. Like, he's just so fun to read about. He's such an honorable character, literally giving Tariq free aim and 3 arrows and saying, like, go ahead and shoot me, like, I owe you these 3, but after this, we're even, like, this is what you get. Like, he's just so noble and such a good character. And then Shahrazad is just so brilliant and cunning and witty, and, like, she just knows what to say. Like, she pays attention to people to figure out what she needs to say to get out of any bad situation, to get the things that she wants or the things that she needs, and to protect the people that she loves. She noticed the second the bow started being fired and jumped in front of Khalid, because how could she ever let any arrow hurt him? Whenever he, like, wants to retaliate on people for, like, hurting her, she's like, no. If I say there was no injustice, you're not gonna retaliate. And if there was, we are going to retaliate. Both of us. They have this whole concept of, like, we don't belong to each other, we just belong together. And I think it's so beautiful, it's so wonderful to read about, and it's just such a good dynamic. Like, I love their relationship. And then we have Ursa and Rahim, who I was shipping from the beginning, and they finally got the nerve to be together and to, like, be in love, and then he dies. I don't know, man. I have this problem whenever resurrection is a thing in stories, because it's always with someone that I want to be resurrected, and I'm like, yes, this is good, they're not allowed to die. But it just bothers me because it's normally when shortly before someone else that we also care about, that is beloved of another character, has died and nothing was done. It was just like oh no, I'm so sorry. But then as soon as it's this person, oh, let's find a way to bring them back. And of course this is different because, like, the person who was trying to kill Khalid was a magician, so he could do something to save him, but it's just such a recurring thing within literature, and it just bothers me that, like, the protagonist's love interest is deemed more valuable or more important or more worthy of saving than secondary characters. Which basically means I'm very sad that Raheem is dead, and I wanted him and Ursa to be together forever. I am glad, though, that he did get a very noble death, that it was remembered, and that he kind of was remembered by his people and the people he fought alongside, even though it was so upsetting because Ursa's the one who got him to be able to go in the first place. But it's okay. It's okay. Ursa's okay, and he died to save Khalid, and it was really noble, and I think it was a good way to go out. And then we have the epilogue. This was the cutest little scene in my whole life. I mean, epilogues always just are like, they're like that little bit of breath that you need because you just died at the end of a story. And it was like that. It was so, so cute. Their son, oh my goodness, their son. And Despina Jalal's kid is his best friend. That's so cute. And then he does his lessons with Artan. That's so cute. And he enters the story by saying, "Don't tell Mama, but he's gonna teach me to fly on the serpent." I just love that. I love this kid. I love the concept of, like, them being happy and having their child, and, like, every day he does his lessons with Artan, and, like, they all keep secrets from Shahrazad because they know that she would kill him, and he's, like, BFFs with Despina and Jalal's kid. Maybe they'll get married one day, and, like, he goes to see Aunt Ursa sometimes, and then every night they all, like, get in bed, and Shahrazad tells a story, like, I genuinely could not think of a more perfect ending for the story for these characters. Like, I love the symmetry of it, coming back to the stories at the end. I just loved this. I love this book. I love this series so, so, so much. Renee, Ahdieh, you have stolen my heart. So that is all I have to say about The Rose and the Dagger. If you thought similarly or very differently, go ahead and comment below. Have a good one, y'all.